Welcome to this week's vlog. Now I want you to imagine, certainly if you attend church, that the leader of your church put out a poll and said that the leader is going to deal with some subjects that may be of interest to people and look at them from a biblical perspective. And the leader gave a long list of all sorts of subjects, and you had to choose which one are ones that you felt would be really helpful to you for the leader to look at from a biblical perspective. I wonder what subjects you might suggest would be important and helpful to you. Well, that's exactly what happened in our church. Our vicar did a poll, and interestingly enough, I'm not sure whether you think this is surprising or not. It's a bit surprising to me, perhaps. Or maybe it wasn't. Anyway, the number one topic that people voted for was depression. Fascinating, isn't it? And of course, we know that depression is a big thing, and it's something that is still a bit of a taboo subject. We don't like talking about it. If you have an injury to your body, you break your arm, you have an ankle injury, or whatever it is, you have some sort of illness, it's generally okay to talk about, tell other people about it so they can sympathise, they can kind of understand, even if they've not experienced that. But if you have a mental illness, something that can't be seen externally, somehow that's much more difficult to talk about, isn't it? We struggle with that, although mental illness is becoming more spoken about these days. Anyway, our vicar helpfully last Sunday addressed the issue of depression from a biblical perspective, and we looked at one of the Psalms. Psalms are great because they deal with all sorts of human emotions, from the celebration and joy to the depths of darkness and struggles. Psalm 88 is the one we looked at, and it begins like this: Lord, you are the God who saves me. Day and night I cry out to you. May my prayer come before you. Turn your ear to my cry. Someone who's desperate is calling out to God, and is desperate for God to hear and respond. And it goes on, and it's almost unrelenting in the writer's expression of his distress, his despair, his despondency. He's calling out to God, and towards the end it says, but I cry to you for help, Lord. In the morning my prayer comes before you. Why, Lord, do you reject me and hide your face from me? So he's been honest with God. He's been real with God. Yes, he's addressing God, but he feels as if God's turned his back on him. Lots of Psalms express kind of similar emotions, but usually at the end there's a note of joy, of hope. But this one, no. Listen to how the psalm ends. Darkness is my only companion. Or as one translation puts it, darkness is my closest friend. Now, it's a tough read, but I guess we should be encouraged that it's there in the Bible, that the Bible doesn't hide away from the realities of life. And we see in the Bible, some of the great characters seem to suffer from depression at times. Take Elijah, for example, a great man of God, a prophet, a man of great faith. He prayed for the rain to stop, and it did for 3.5 years. He prayed for a mum's dead son, and the boy was brought back to life. He prayed for God to send down fire when he was confronting the false prophets of the false god Baal, and God answered. But following that, Queen Jezebel vowed to kill Elijah, and Elijah was so overwhelmed by fear and depression that even this great man of God prayed, God, I want to die, take my life. He was in a depth of depression, despite the fact that he'd experienced God moving in amazing ways. So how did God respond to Elijah? 3 particular areas of God's response. Firstly, God sent an angel to provide Elijah food and water. So he provided for Elijah's physical needs. We need to continue to look after our bodies, even if our minds are struggling. Secondly, God cared for Elijah's emotional and physical needs by giving him time to rest. Rest, Elijah. Sleep, Elijah. We need to renew our energy by taking on food and water, but also by taking rest. And then thirdly, God, and this is perhaps the most important, well, certainly I think, that God drew near to Elijah. God spoke to him in that still small voice. God drew near. And we need to hang on to that hope, that promise of God. I am with you always. I will never leave you or forsake you. So even in the darkest of times, God is there for us. Think of Jesus himself on the cross when he cries out, my God, why have you forsaken me? Even Jesus knew that feeling of being abandoned by his Father. And sometimes we might feel abandoned by our closest friends, by God himself. God is silent. God has turned his back on us. We feel. But we need to be reminded that God knows. God, through his Son, has experienced that feeling of desperate aloneness, abandonment by his friends. So God understands and God draws near. It's in the Bible for a reason, these passages, to tell us that God understands and God draws near and God enfolds us in his loving arms, even when we cannot feel that. And there will come a time when the darkness will have to flee and the light of his presence will be known to us again. You may not be experiencing depression, but there may come a time when you are. You may not be experiencing depression, but maybe someone you know is. And we need to draw near to come alongside, to offer them our love, our support, our care. So just some thoughts to throw out to you about a subject that is one that we need to talk more about and perhaps try and understand more. And when we're in there, don't be afraid to ask for help. Remember, God is with you always. God bless you. Thank you so much for listening today.